I just don't know what justifies the fact that this book is like around 600 pages long, and the entire time from what I've heard this guy is just looking for a whale. Hello everybody, it's Sara. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited because I'm coming at you with a book tag, and it has been so long since I've done a book tag. Like, I don't even remember when is the last time that I did one, and I love tags. So obviously I'm super excited about today's video, and I'm even more excited because today's tag is going to be talking about some of my unpopular opinion, and that tag is the anti-TBR tag created by Nicole and her books. So I will make sure to link the original video down below, so make sure to go and check it out. So yeah, like I said, today's tag is all about unpopular bookish opinions because it's basically talking about all of the books that you don't want to read, which I do really love to do. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So the first prompt of this tag is talk about a popular book that everyone loves but you have absolutely no interest in reading. And I mean, obviously there are so many popular books that I have absolutely no interest in reading, whether it's because they're written like in a genre that I don't normally read from, or it's because I've heard pretty bad things about them. But the one that I decided to talk about might be a little bit surprising, and that book is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a fantasy book that apparently is super gigantic to the point where you can basically kill someone with it, which normally is like right up my alley, but for whatever reason I've never been really that interested into reading this one. I don't know what it is, it just never really appealed to me. And also recently I've read some things that the author has said that just really convinced me that his books were probably not gonna be for me. I think that he was talking about female characters and the representation of women in the media, and he said some pretty harmful things. So yeah, I'm not interested in reading about that. I think the premise of the story sounds kind of interesting. I think it's about this like traveler in an inn, and he basically tells his entire life story to you through this book, which sounds pretty great. But yeah, there were always some other fantasy books that I wanted to prioritize before getting to this one, maybe, and now I know that it's probably not gonna happen. Then the second prompt is talk about a classic book you have absolutely no interest in reading. So as you may already know, I've been trying to read a little bit more classics, not only to challenge myself but also to try and find classics that I actually love and that I actually enjoy, and it's been going great so far. But obviously, there are also a lot of classics that I have absolutely no interest in reading. But the one that I decided to talk about today is one that I know for sure that I'm never going to be changing my mind about. Like, there are a couple of them that like a year ago I would have been like, nah, I'm never gonna read that one. Like War and Peace, for instance, I was just like, not interesting. I don't think I'm gonna read that one. Or any Charles Dickens. Like, if you had asked me a year ago if I was interested in reading Charles Dickens, I would have said absolutely not. But now I kind of like changed my mind a little bit. Like, maybe I will try one of his books. I don't know, maybe somewhere down the line. He's not like one of my priority, but maybe I will give him a chance. But the one that I want to talk about today is Moby Dick. I have absolutely no interest in reading about this guy and his whale. Like, I just don't know what justifies the fact that this book is like around 600 pages long, and the entire time from what I've heard this guy is just looking for a whale. How is this fun to read about? I was actually supposed to read this book for one of my classes at university, and I think I read like one sentence and I just decided to not do it, which was very untypical for me, especially in the beginning of my university years, because I was such an overachiever. But this one, I just could not do it, and I don't think that it's ever going to happen between me, this guy, and the whale. Then for the next prompt, you have to talk about an author whose books you don't want to read. I feel like whenever I do one of those videos when I talk about my unpopular opinion, I always end up either talking about Sarah J. Maas or Cassandra Clare. So I decided to be a little bit more original with my answer for this question. So today I decided to talk about Stephen King instead, and the reason why I don't think I'll ever read any Stephen King book is, first of all, because I hate horror. Like, I really don't love being scared. I really hate it. There is nothing fun about it for me. And I get scared very easily, as you can probably guess. I just don't like it. So I don't think that I would ever personally seek out any of his books because they're just not for me. But also, I've heard pretty bad things about Stephen King. I've heard that he's pretty problematic. He uses words that he has absolutely no business using, and also some of the things that he talks about in his books are handled in a very, very bad way. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever try to read a Stephen King book. Then the next prompt is pretty similar to the last one, and for this one you have to talk about a problematic author whose books you don't want to read. I've just realized that I already talked about a couple of problematic authors in this video, so obviously this applies to all of them as well, but the one that I decided to talk about today is Jay Kristoff. The main thing that I've heard about Jay Kristoff is that he did a lot of cultural appropriation in his Nevernight series, and when somebody actually called him out on it, he just dismissed them very aggressively, which obviously is not the way to go when you're a white male author appropriating somebody else's culture. So yeah, that really doesn't make me want to read his books, not Nevernight and not anything else that he would ever write, because I think that's very wrong, and some problematic behavior is just really not something that I want to encourage. Then for the next prompt of this tag, you have to talk about an author that you have read some books from, but you're not really interested in reading any more of their books because they're just not for you. And for this one, once again, I could also go with Cassandra Clare, but I decided to go actually with Holly Black. I have read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black and I enjoyed it okay, but it just didn't like really blow my mind, and I don't think that I'm ever going to finish the Folk of the Air series, and I also don't think that I'm going to read any of her other books because they just don't seem to be for me. Like, I'm not really a big fan of fae stories and all of that kind of stuff that she's doing. So yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be reading anything else by Holly Black. I know that she's very popular and a lot of people really love her books, but she is just personally not for me. Then for the next prompt, you have to talk about a genre that isn't for you. And I've already kind of answered this question in this video because the only thing that really comes to mind for me is horror. Like, I'm open in reading a lot of different genres. Like, before I wasn't really open to reading any nonfiction, or like sci-fi isn't also my favorite, but you know, I'm really open to read any of those things now. But horror is just, we don't vibe together, okay? I don't love horror. So yeah, I really don't gravitate towards it, except when it's like the fall and I want to be slightly spooked, but that's the only moment where I ever read something that is scary, like just slightly scary, and even then it's not like, it's not that spooky because I am weak. Then for the next prompt, you have to talk about a book that you bought but you know that you won't really ever read. And as you may already know, if you've already watched my physical TBR video that I made recently, I don't really buy books that I haven't read already. Most of the books that I have on my bookshelves that are not read already are gifts that were given to me, so I didn't actually like buy them, and I do really plan on reading them. So yeah, I don't really have a book on my shelves that I bought that I know I'm not going to read because I'm just like so picky when it comes to buying books. When I buy books that I haven't read yet, I always make sure in my mind that like it's a book that I'm either going to read immediately or it's a book that my interest in is not going to fade over time. So yeah, I really don't have anything to say for this prompt. I can't expose myself, which is very sad. Then for the next prompt, you have to talk about a series that you don't really want to read or a series that you DNF'd. And for this one, I decided to really be controversial and talk about the Children of Blood and Bone series by Tomi Adeyemi. I have read the first 2 books into the Children of Blood and Bone series, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to finish the trilogy when the 3rd book comes out because I was kind of disappointed by the 2nd book, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. I enjoyed it okay, but I felt like it kind of repeated certain of the plot elements of the first one, just in a like slightly different way, and that was just a little bit disappointing for me because I was really hoping for something different. Also, I didn't feel like there was a lot of character development, which I was really looking forward to. So yeah, this book kind of disappointed me, and for that reason I don't think that I'm going to keep on going with the series, sadly. And then finally, for the last prompt of this tag, you have to talk about a new release that you have no interest in reading. This one was kind of hard for me to answer because first of all, I never know what new books are coming out. I'm very bad with keeping up with releases, except for the books that I'm really anticipating. And also, second of all, when I hear about a book and it just doesn't interest me in the slightest, I immediately erase this book from my memory, like it doesn't exist anymore for me. So I really struggled trying to find a book that fit this prompt. So I decided to go with a book that is actually already out, that I had a lot of interest in reading when I first heard of it, but now the reviews are kind of like making me doubt. And this book is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and this is a kind of like Romeo and Juliet fantasy retelling. And when I first heard about this book, I thought it sounded absolutely great. I was super pumped to read it, and then I have heard some very mixed reviews. I know that certain people really enjoyed it, but I have heard more negative reviews than positive reviews at this point, so I am really not certain that I want to read this book anymore. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last couple of months I really haven't read a lot of YA fantasy or just YA literature in general, because I have been very disappointed by all of the YA books that I read in 2020, and I think it's more of a me problem rather than the books, because I thought that these books were fine, but they were just not really for me anymore. And I think I'm kind of like slowly going out of the genre, which really breaks my heart. But I don't want to keep on reading YA books and just giving them very middle of the road reviews, because I don't think that's fair. So yeah, that's another reason why I don't know if I'm ever going to be reading this book, but the premise still kind of interests me, so who knows, maybe I'll change my mind. Alright, so this was the anti-TBR book tag. I had a lot of fun coming up with all of the answers for all of those questions, because as I said at the beginning of this video, I always really love to talk about my unpopular opinions. Once again, make sure to check out the original video down below, and if you want to do this tag, you can definitely say that I tagged you. Also, if you want, definitely let me know all of your answers to all of those prompts down below in the comments, because I always love myself a good literary tea session. So definitely let me know if you agree with me or if you completely disagree and you think I'm wrong. If you've made it to the end of this video, leave me a little explosion emoji in the comments, and I hope that you really enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!